Hey guys, Jules here for What Culture, and I've got a rather sombre tale to tell today as it centres around Heath Ledger, his outstanding portrayal of the Joker, and unfortunately, his tragic death. Now the story I'm going to tell isn't pretty, and it paints the picture of a man beset by personal troubles, and so before I begin, I just wanted to carry on my theme of positive mental health messages by stating the following clearly. I hope you, whoever you are, whatever you do in life, are treating yourself as well and as fair as you possibly can. Now, life can sometimes be stressful, sometimes it can be difficult, sometimes it can be downright unfair, but you deserve love, you deserve happiness, and if you are struggling, you deserve help. And so please just take a break, be kind to yourself, and remember that there is help if you feel out of your depth. There is no weakness in asking for help, because together we are stronger. So with that in mind, let's talk about Heath Ledger, and to be honest, his death has kind of got an assumed story as to what really happened. The abridged version of the tragic story states, with some confidence, that Ledger lost himself to the intense process of becoming the Joker for Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. He allowed the Joker into his mind too much, and what stayed there, even after he was done with the role, broke him. The reality is obviously more nuanced, more complex. However, and I am imparting no blame here, Hollywood does have a preferred story because the tale of the devil taking over the man is more emotional and more sensationalized. It gave the film a dark marketing boost and his performance a weird, visceral edge. In fact, the controversy behind the performance became a currency to such an extent that it didn't matter how little Warner Brothers or the Nolans played into it, the potential audience did all the work for them, and with 6 months between his death and the film's release in 2008, the public was whipped into a frenzy by the time The Dark Knight actually dropped. Now, Ledger was by no means an unknown when he was cast as the Joker. He'd already been in acclaimed and popular movies, and thanks to roles in Ned Kelly and Brokeback Mountain, he was beginning to emerge as a performer of serious ability. Yet, for some, it was too much to expect the heartthrob from 10 Things I Hate About You to ever be seen in the role of the Joker. Christopher Nolan had been keen to work with Ledger for some time, and at one point the actor was even in the running to be Batman himself, but was dropped because of worries that he wouldn't be able to play a hero convincingly. A villain, however, well, that was another matter. In an effort to showcase a passion for the role, Ledger set out to make his Joker completely different to anything people had seen before. It wasn't going to be just some rehash of Jack Nicholson or a more campy TV show iteration, but something much more strange. For starters, the look was already different. Christopher Nolan has revealed that his Joker was designed to be a visual homage to the work of artist Francis Bacon. But the difference for Ledger was more than skin deep, as shown in an interview with Empire where he laid out his plans for the big screen, especially in his preparation. It's a combination of reading all the comic books I could that were relevant to the script and then just closing my eyes and meditating on it. I sat around in a hotel room in London for about a month, locked myself away, formed a little diary and experimented with voices. It was important to try and find a somewhat iconic voice and laugh. He's just an absolute sociopath, a cold-blooded mass-murdering clown. Nothing intimidates him and everything is a big joke. Despite Nolan being the director, he revealed that Ledger would come to key decisions himself, gradually revealing his choice of the voice and the way that he was going to approach parts of the performance. And after watching the film multiple times, you can truly begin to see the scope of this character. And that was just the physical stuff, as when it came to the mindset, well, it's where many argue that Ledger lost himself to the Joker. Even Nolan commented on how he thought the role was changing the actor's mind. That idea of approaching a role as a psychological concept has come up before, and when you combine it with the school of method acting that charges an actor with getting into the mind of their character through experience, you can see why there is some belief that it led directly to Ledger's death. Now, Ledger sought to capture what it would mean to play someone with little to no conscience towards his acts, and so began to write a diary and act in ways that support his character of an absolute sociopath. Of course, this sort of decision could be seen as risky. Alongside preparation that Nolan had given him ranging from A Clockwork Orange to Sid Vicious, Heath locked himself away with the diary and used that time to form a cocoon from which the Joker emerged. Or at least that's what the papers said happened, that the Joker and Heath were one and the same. However, this contrasts with set cast and crew reports that said that Ledger was very much himself and posed with fans and chatted freely with the team on a regular basis. There's some thinking that this transformation was total at that point, that he would refuse to drop out of character as Jared Leto was said to have done while filming The Suicide Squad, but set reports from cast and crew contradict that. Ledger was still very much Ledger. However, it was still coming at a cost though, no matter how he'd look in set photos and how happy he looked when he posed with crew when asked. In fact, he told MTV that it was often a pleasant experience. It's the most fun I've ever had with a character and probably will ever have. The movie itself is far exceeding my expectations. I think it's going to be a really fun movie to watch. But then, almost in the same breath, come the revelations about the cost of the performance. In his own words, he said, it was an exhausting process that would require him often to take extended breaks. I actually had quite a bit of time off between scenes, weeks sometimes, but it was required because whenever I was working, it exhausted me to the bone. At the end of the day, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I was absolutely wrecked. If I had to do that every day, I couldn't have done what I did. The schedule really permitted me to exhaust myself. Now, on paper, this sounds to an extent okay, that an actor is willing to push themselves to their limits for their craft. However, from a standpoint of health and well-being, this is clearly not the route that actors nor anyone should go down, as damage done to the body or the mind through such exertions is going to leave a mark. Plus, Ledger was shown to have trouble balancing his creative output and the toll it took on his body, as in 2007 he told the New York Times that he struggled with the role of Bob Dylan in I'm Not There. It stressed him out a little too much, he said, detailing the following. Last week, I probably slept an average of 2 hours a night. I couldn't stop thinking. My body was exhausted and my mind was still going. That fits with the 2015 Australian Actors' Wellbeing Study that suggests that performers are twice as likely as the general population to experience depression. A higher than average percentage suffer from performance anxiety and report high levels of stress arising from work-related pressures such as low income and job insecurity. Adding to that, what performing arts scholar Mark Seaton hypothesizes about the complexity of playing a character which simply cannot be separated from the life of the actor, and the pressures appear even more insistent. Chillingly, the New York Times interview with Ledger also carries a line about him using drugs to try and sleep. One night he took an Ambien which failed to work. He took a second one and fell into a stupor, only to wake up an hour later, his mind still racing. By the end of 2007, Ledger had moved on from the production, though Nolan's team were still there in Hong Kong filming sequences as late as November 2007. For Ledger, the next step was making Terry Gilliam's fantastical The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. An oddity and a strange film to make following The Dark Knight, but another big opportunity all the same. Filming started in December 2007, but his dialect coach on the film, Gary Grenell, described him as exhausted, and he said that he had been battling a lingering pneumonia-type illness, which would ultimately send him back to his New York City apartment. It was there that he died, thanks to a fatal mixture of prescription drugs. Grenell painted a picture of Ledger on set that didn't quite fit with the happy professional experience that he painted. He said, "I've got to stop. It's not helping. I'm not well. It's making me feel more upset." Grenell wasn't the only one to express concern. Ledger's Four Feathers co-star Jimon Hoon-soo told the filmmakers for Ledger's posthumous documentary I Am Heath Ledger that he'd run into him when he was filming The Dark Knight and remarked that the change he saw in him concerned him. There was still a contradiction though. His sister Kate told People in 2017 that Ledger was a happy boy, even though she knew he was struggling with illness. She warned him to be careful about mixing medication, which he shrugged off. Even their final conversation was upbeat. In her own words, she said, "I was cooking dinner and we were laughing. Then he said, 'I've got to go and I'll call you at 8:30 in the morning.' And that was it. That was our last conversation. I said, 'Okay, I love you.' And that was it." It's heartbreaking. Ledger's death completely changed the trajectory of The Dark Knight. It would probably have still made a huge sum of money at the box office, but it wouldn't have been as defined by his performance. It perhaps might not have even won an Oscar. How much the narrative of his tragic death played into that still remains to be unseen. Later, Christopher Nolan remarked on his experience completing the film in the wake of his star's death. It was tremendously emotional right when he passed, having to go back in and look at him every day during editing. But the truth is, I feel very lucky to have something productive to do, to have a performance that he was very, very proud of, and that he had entrusted to me to finish. The director presented Ledger's performance as he'd filmed it, avoiding digital effects in any way. What you see in that final film is the product of Ledger's commitment to preparing, his method approach, and everything that exhausted him and set his mind on edge. Even now, it's difficult to watch it with the nagging suspicion that it played some part in the actor's untimely death. Just as important is it to remember what Ledger himself said. The Joker was the most fun thing I've ever had, or probably ever will have, playing a character. For all the darkness and all the troubling stories, that much is very clear when you watch it back now. And there we go, that was the dark truth about Heath Ledger's Joker. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And I just wanted to state again, make sure that you're treating yourself as well as you possibly can. And if you're struggling, and for my friends here in the UK, there's a number that you can call if you want to speak to somebody about this. It's a Samaritan's number, and they offer confidential emotional support services. You can call them on 116 123. All right? Take care of yourself. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.